Val from Kiss the Chef Personal Chef and Catering Services. Today I'm going to show you how to make mishi warat ineb, or stuffed grape leaves. This is a huge favorite in our family and seems to make an appearance at just about every family gathering. For this, we're going to need some ground lamb, crushed tomatoes, white rice, salt, pepper, cinnamon, and allspice. And for assembly, we'll need a lemon and a potato. Given the name, you probably assumed that grape leaves figure into the equation somewhere, and you'd be right. We are using the jarred variety today, so that means we need to soak them in water for a few minutes because they are preserved in brine and it'll be too salty. So I'm going to take a hunk out and swish them around in water a little bit. We're going to use that time to make our hashwi, or our stuffing. So we're going to take 1 pound of ground lamb, 3/4 of a cup of crushed tomatoes, 3/4 of a cup also of white rice. You can use short grain or long grain. I think the short grain is traditional. And we have 1 teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and 1 teaspoon each of allspice and cinnamon. Okay. And then we need to mix this. I know you've seen cooking shows where there's a meat mixture and the host is tenderly or gently tossing it with a spoon. Nobody does that. These are my favorite kitchen tools, so I use them for tossing salad, just about everything. So that's what we're going to use to mix these. You got to get in there and use a little elbow grease. There's nothing dainty about this, guys. If you're squeamish about the raw meat, glove up. Put some gloves on and try it again. So we want to make sure all the components are combined and distributed evenly. Cinnamon and allspice in American cooking is usually associated with sweet applications such as baking, desserts, things like that. Whereas in the Middle East, it's almost always used for savory dishes. The warming spices like cinnamon and allspice tend to mellow out the tomato, the acidity in the tomato, and make a richer flavor. Also, we're using lamb, which is a stronger flavored meat than beef. That's the primary meat that we use in the Middle Eastern cooking. It's something that we grew up eating. We eat it raw, we eat it cooked, doesn't matter. One step that you don't want to miss, don't want to skip, and take a little babuli, a little ball, and we're going to cook it first and then taste it afterward to make sure that the spices are as we want them, because once it's cooked, once it's assembled and cooked, you can't re-season. So for lacking seasoning, it's too late. So we're going to do that. And just bear in mind, when you do crunch into it to taste, it's going to be a little crunchy because it's the rice is not cooked. And what I do is put them around, I like to put them around the edge of the dish that we already have the filling in, so it's closer at hand and you can grab it easier. Also going to be putting the rib side up, because that's the side we're going to put the stuffing in, so that the pretty side is the side that shows when you've finished it. If you're fortunate enough to have a grapevine in your backyard or access to one, you can use those leaves as well. You just want to blanch them first in some generously salted water, and then you can use those leaves. I have very fond memories of being in the backyard with my mom and my situ. They would show me how to pick the most tender leaves to use for stuffed grape leaves. We also used to harvest the sour grass and the dandelions in the backyard, and didn't need a lawnmower when Situ was around because we just ate the backyard. Can't do that now because I have dogs and everything in the backyard is kind of pre-seasoned. This batch will make about 40 to 45 grape leaves, finished products. It depends on how much you stuff them, how large the leaves are. We usually use, my cousins and I were faithful Orlando grape leaf users, the brand Orlando, until they didn't have them in the store one day, and the Lebanese man in the store, the Lebanese proprietor, said, "Oh no, you have to try this brand." I'm not even sure how you pronounce it, but these are the ones we use now because they, on his advice, thankfully, we discovered our new favorite. Usually what we'll do at the bottom of the pot is use the torn leaves or the tougher leaves so that the bottom layer of the grape leaves doesn't burn. But there aren't any bad ones in this batch. They seem to be all perfect. So What I'm going to be doing is using a potato to put on the bottom, to line the bottom. People do that with potato, they do with other sliced tomatoes if you happen to have a lot in your garden, and they also use onion. So, okay, now what you're going to do to roll these is you want to place the leaf stem side towards you, and one thing you want to do, you can use a paring knife or whatever else you want to use to get this off, but again, my favorite kitchen tools. So I'm just going to take that little nub off, trim that up. And I also find with this particular brand that there's not a lot of them that you have to take off because they're pretty much all in good shape. So we're going to roll about a finger size piece, okay? It's about a walnut size piece, and we're going to roll it out into a finger shape, an elongated shape. And we're going to put that right here. Okay, we'll leave a little bit of room on the top. And there are two ways to roll this. My cousin Geraldine rolls them one way. My cousin Gay and I roll them a different way, but the end result is exactly the same. Geraldine's method is to roll the top over, the sides in, tucking the sides in as you roll. There. And Gay and I do them this way. Oh, come on now. Don't give me a hard time. There we go. Take that off. Again, we've got a little walnut-sized piece of lamb or hatchery, and we can put this here, same spot, but we roll the sides in first and then the top over. So whichever way you're more comfortable with, go for it. Again, as you can see, it's the same results. All right? So we're going to keep rolling these. When you're rolling these, one important thing to remember is that the rice isn't cooked, so it's going to expand a little bit when it cooks, so you don't want to roll it too tight. So about, oh, come on, there we go. Fold that in, and you just tuck the ends in as you roll. But you can see there's a little bit of play here. It's not as tight as you would be rolling a cigar or something like that. Okay, so a little bit looser. So we've ended up with about 38 instead of 40. Must have been over generous with my stuffing. So what we're going to do now is layer these into the pan. Before that, as I said before, we're going to line the bottom of the pan with the potato. I've lightly greased the pan. So we're just going to slice out these. It doesn't matter how thick they are or how thin they are. They just need to protect the bottom layer of the grape leaves from burning. So we're going to layer those. They're actually very tasty afterward too, because they absorb all the flavors from the grape leaves. All right, so we've got that pan lined, and now what we're going to do, I'm going to squeeze a little bit of lemon in between each layer. So I'm going to layer these in one direction on the bottom, and we try to use the larger grape leaves on the first layer because those are the ones that are going to get most of the heat. And when I do the second layer, I'm going to do them crosswise. Okay. So we have, now the bottom layer is done. So it looks like this. And then we're going to lay the next ones across them. So we're going to go like that. Okay. But first what we're going to do is squeeze some lemon over this layer. Trying not to get the seeds. Nice. And then we put another layer. When I did neglect to mention when I was listing the ingredients that we also use additional crushed tomatoes for in between the layers. So I'll just tell you now. So we're going to put some of the crushed tomatoes in between the layer, and then we'll put these crosswise. Nestled in, not too tight, but not too loose. Okay, we've got the top layer now, and we're going to pour more lemon juice over the top. I like a lot of lemon on mine. You also can squeeze a little bit on top after you're done too. Again, more tomatoes. So let's dump that juice in there too. There you go. Now, we're going to pour some water in the pot, almost up to the top of the grape leaves. And then what we have to do, because they're loosely rolled, we don't want them breaking apart when they're cooking. So usually we put a plate on the top, and then usually, again, it's a round one, but we don't have round ones here. So we're going to put this on top and then weight it down with a little bit of water in a bowl or a can. You can use a can if you want to. Okay, and then we're going to cover it and cook it over medium-high heat. We're going to bring it to a boil and then let it simmer, gently simmer for about 45 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, depending on how long it takes the rice to cook. Okay, so our grape leaves are done. This batch took about an hour. So we're going to plate them now. Grape leaves are usually served with yogurt or lemon, plain yogurt, and you can dip them if you choose to. And I also like to give a little squeeze of lemon before serving. So there you have it. There's our stuffed grape leaves, and hope you'll try this recipe at home. And if you do, I hope you enjoy. About time.